Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to the Cloud English podcast. My name is Luke, and it is October 29th, 2099. Wow, October 29th. 2 days away from my birthday, which is October 31st. So that's exciting. Well, maybe not so exciting. I'm an old man, and I don't know how I feel about it. But it is what it is, I suppose. Every year we get 1 year older. What a shock. What a surprise. This episode is going to be focused on routines. That means talking about routines. So we're going to be talking about what we're talking about. Basically, words and phrases that you can use to share a routine, to explain what you do on a typical day. That's what a routine is, right? Your typical things that you usually do. We'll talk about frequency. We'll talk about time. We'll talk about conditionals, which is important as well. We are going to get into an episode from a popular, I believe, late 90s TV series, Monk. We're going to be learning some words and phrases from that. We're going to be talking about some other idioms that are useful, and we're going to be also looking at the voice function of ChatGPT, which, if you haven't tried it, I would strongly recommend it. It's pretty cool. Before we get started, just a few things at the top of the show. If you haven't done so already, and you're not subscribed and you like to watch or listen to these podcasts, then be sure to subscribe. And videos also going out every single week, several per week, right? So be sure to subscribe. Likes also help. So if you want to do a little thing that supports the channel, then hit the like button as well. If you want to listen instead of watch, and you are watching, then you can listen in the links in the description. All of the podcast links are there. And if you're listening and you would like to watch, you can do so on Facebook and YouTube by searching Cloud English. All right. What else? What else? What else? Oh, yes. If you want to grab the monthly membership on the website, which gives you access to all of the courses that are listed there on the website, you can do that at 30% off. That is a rolling thing, and that is something that's available to, my viewers. So if you guys are looking to improve your English and you want to tackle grammar and idioms, pronunciation, listening skills, thinking in English, all of that stuff, please go ahead and check that out. You can also get a free course in the links in the description as well. And you can join the free Discord. Some people like to join that and reach out to me individually if they have questions about things or whatever. And I try to be relatively responsive there too. So I think that's pretty much it. As far as birthday celebrations go, I mean, what can you do? You know, I'm an old man now. I feel like once you hit 30, it doesn't matter. I'm very cynical. Holidays mean nothing to me. Birthdays mean nothing to me. Other things mean things to me, but those things mean nothing. However, I will say, that does not mean that my newborn son won't get the experience, purely because I remember as a kid how sacred those things are. It's my birthday. So exciting, right? It's Christmas. It's Halloween. I mean, Halloween and my birthday. I always felt super special because Halloween was on my birthday. It still is. Still is. But having the double, getting candy and presents on the same day, how amazing is that, right? So I remember how special that stuff is. And so I'm excited to provide those experiences for my son. I mean, right now he's 3 months old. He can't experience much. But, you know, as he gets a little older, I'm very excited to make sure that all of the holidays, his birthday, all of that stuff, super exciting and fun. It's just that I think, I don't know, not everyone is like me. You know, they love their birthday every year. I just don't care. I get excited about other things, you know. I get excited about looking out the window and just looking out the window, thinking about how cool everything out the window is. That's what gets me excited, you know. I get excited about reading books. It sounds crazy. Well, maybe it doesn't sound crazy. I mean, a lot of people like books, right? I get excited about, what do I get excited about? My morning walk. I get very excited about my morning walk. I love my morning walk. I get really excited about my morning walk. You know, I get so excited about my cup of coffee, you know, just other things I get excited about. But who cares about birthdays? We did go to a restaurant in the city for the yearly birthday meal, and it was nice. It was nice. It was tasty. The food tasted tasty. It was a tasty, tasty meal. That's what I'll say. It was a tasty meal, that food was. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Let's get into it. I think to start, well, how shall we start? How shall we start? Okay. To those joining, hello, welcome. Happy Sunday to you. We got some people here live. Isaac is here. Hello, welcome. And Maria is here. Hello, welcome. And Tolerable Blep is here with a promotional offer. Okay. And Karina is here. Oh, wow. Great. Long-time viewer. Welcome. Great. Welcome to here. Welcome to here. Okay. Can we try this? Let's first, I just want to show this because it's cool. Okay? Let us hop over to ChatGPT. Here we are. On, in, at, around, within ChatGPT. Now, if you've seen my courses on ChatGPT, check those out. I've made 2 courses on ChatGPT. One is about writing with ChatGPT. It's not exclusively for English learners, but it would be useful for everyone who wants to create writing, getting out of that sort of generic crap that comes out naturally. And then the other one about English learning with ChatGPT. But recent update, if you are, I don't know if this is accessible to everybody, but if you're on GPT Plus, I think it's called, whatever the membership is, you can do voice chats. And it's pretty cool. Now we'll just do a sort of a free form sort of thing. So let's just try this out. No instructions or anything, right? We're just gonna hop in and what if you could talk to an AI companion? What if you had a conversation partner anytime who could have a natural conversation with you anytime about anything? That's basically what we're talking about here. Now, it can be more or less useful because sometimes if you ask a question, you'll get this long response and you're just listening and listening. So if you want to do this correctly, you need to structure it correctly. And that all comes down to prompting, right? I have a whole course on that. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I just want to show you what you get when you try to have a conversation with ChatGPT. So when I look down here, I'm looking at my phone. So let's see. Hello. I think we could talk a little bit about the weather today, if that's okay. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. Hold on. Audio. Right. Maybe not.
Hello. How can I assist you today?
I was hoping
You're
you could.
welcome. It's great to be here with you. What would you like to discuss or chat about?
I was hoping that we could talk about the different weather patterns in the Hudson Valley and why it's so gloomy all the time here in the Hudson Valley in late October.
Ah, the Hudson Valley. It's a beautiful region, but you're right, it can get quite gloomy, especially in late October. The Hudson Valley, situated in New York State, is influenced by a mix of coastal and continental climates due to its proximity to the Atlantic Ocean and being inland. Here's why it tends to be gloomy during this time. 1. Seasonal transition. Late October is when the region is transitioning from summer to winter. This period often brings unsettled weather patterns, with cold fronts moving in more frequently. As these fronts pass through, they can bring rain and overcast conditions. 2. Nor'easters. The Hudson Valley is susceptible to nor'easters, which are strong storm systems that can bring heavy rain, strong winds, and sometimes snow. These storms develop off the east coast and can lead to prolonged periods of gloomy weather.
Actually, I changed my mind. I don't really want to talk about the weather anymore. Maybe we could have a back and forth conversation, and I don't want to listen to a very long explanations of things. Could you start a conversation asking me questions and follow-up questions without saying too much so that I can practice speaking a bit more? Let's go. Come on.
Of course. Let's keep it light and conversational. So, do you have a favorite hobby or activity you like to do in your free time?
Well, I like to stare out the window for hours at a time and think about things. And sometimes, well, actually, almost all the time, I go for a walk in the morning, which is something I really look forward to every day. And I like to read as much as possible. Whenever I'm free, I instead of playing video games a lot, I try to read a lot. Those are just a few of my hobbies. What about you?
That sounds calming and introspective. Morning walks are such a refreshing way to start the day. As for reading, it's a wonderful hobby. What's the last book you read or are currently reading? And to answer your question, I don't have hobbies like humans do, but I enjoy assisting and learning from our conversations.
Cool. I'm currently reading a very challenging book by Arthur Schopenhauer called The World as Will and Representation. And it's pretty difficult because it's so dense and the ideas are quite complex. But I'm enjoying it because I think Schopenhauer has a unique balance of Eastern and Western ideas.
That's impressive. Schopenhauer's philosophy is indeed thought provoking, and I can understand how it might resonate with someone who enjoys introspection. The blend of Eastern and Western thoughts in his work makes it especially fascinating. What drew you to Schopenhauer's philosophy in the first place?
All right. So that's just to sort of give you a flavor. And now, as you can see, the entire conversation, I have a record of it. I can continue it. Now, if you want to go a step further into this, what you can do is provide your prompts if you have a very well structured prompt, very specific prompt that you want to use to practice, I don't know, the IELTS exam, you want to use to prepare for an interview, a challenging interview. Really the difference between what that was, which I would describe that as a fairly generic conversation, even though I did give some specific instructions. The difference between that and a well-prompted conversation is huge. It's going to be much more useful to you, much more interesting. So you have to be, number one, good at knowing how to structure prompts, and then number two, get a lot out of it if you are good at structuring prompts. So I don't know. I think it's pretty compelling. Obviously, the pronunciation is very, very natural, and the overall speed and cadence and rhythm, I think, is really, really good. I think it's very impressive. So GPT-4 is based on something called Whisper, which is Whisper is a speech-to-text recognition system from OpenAI, and it's very accurate, so you don't have to necessarily speak very clearly. You can just talk how you talk, and it's able to pick up everything very easily, even if you have a very strong accent or something like that. So there's a lot of benefits for sure. And for example, if I were someone preparing for a job interview, if I were someone preparing for the IELTS speaking exam, if I were someone who wanted to have ongoing conversation to practice my spoken English and build confidence, I would certainly use it. And because it's, as far as I can tell, the best way to have a natural conversation. You're just looking at some white blobs there on the screen. That is what it is. You're not looking at a person, right? But still, I think very cool, very, very compelling. All right. I think now we can get into our thing. Our first topic. Shall we? We shall. All right. So let's hop over here. Let me move myself slightly. There we go. All right. So let's get into some phrases that we can use to talk about routines, things we do in a typical day. And we're going to break it into 3 general categories. The first category is going to be time, and then we're going to talk about frequency, how we can use frequency words when we're giving, let's say, parts of our routine, and then we'll talk about conditionals. And conditionals are if statements, basically, right? And really, it's a matter of knowing how to connect all these together to make a complete routine. That is the challenge. Once you get comfortable with the phrases, it's actually not that hard. So let's start with time. I'm just going to give some examples, but I want to be clear that there are a billion different things that we could say here for each of these. I'm just giving you a sense for these, and I want you to start thinking about how to build them out. But you may notice some common patterns in the way that these are structured, okay? And then at the end, we're going to look at a complete example. Okay, so around 9 o'clock, this is where you would talk about time, but you don't want to be too specific, right? Around. That could be before. That could be after. It's not very specific, and that can be useful because sometimes it is before or after, right? Can you say at around 9? Yes, that's okay. So if you want to say at around 9 instead of just around 9, that's totally fine. Now, sometimes it is very clearly before or after. So before hitting the gym, I have a smoothie, right? After hitting the gym. So if it's a sequence of things, then you probably want to use before or after this event. So yes, it is not exactly a time, but it is around an event, and so we can use time there. On days when I work from home, this is where we have a thing that may or may not happen, right? Now, we could phrase that as a conditional, which we're going to look at in a moment. But if we want to just say, on days when I work from home, on days that, it's raining outside, something like that, then we say that happens and that happens. We can put those together in the same way that we use if. On days when I work from home, what do you do, right? Or as soon as I get home. This is very quickly after. It's basically as it's happening. We could say simultaneous, right? As soon as I get home, as soon as I walk in the door. That's like saying the moment that thing happens. And then you connect that action. So for all of these, we're talking about when things happen, basically, connecting them in time to either other things or times. For around 9 o'clock, that's a time. Before hitting the gym, that's an event or a thing that I do. On days when I work from home, that's connected to something I may do. As soon as I get home, that is connected to a thing that I do. Okay? Now let's talk about using frequency words. These are words like sometimes, always, never, usually, typically, right? So let's talk about how we could use these. And it's very similar, right? It's very similar. We can add it or remove it, either way. Typically, before my evening walk. I could say before my evening walk, and that's exactly like the examples we just looked at. Typically, before my evening walk. What is that changing? All it's doing is saying that it may not always be that way, but let's say, 85% of the time it is that way. That's just an example percentage. But it's like saying if you were to count up the number of times that I go on a walk, right, then of those times, 85%, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, what do? Check my email, some activity, right? Sometimes would be then the opposite, would be not as often, maybe only 20%. And again, I'm just giving a rough idea. Sometimes would be less often than typically. Sometimes once I'm done, right? So maybe that's a treat. Sometimes once I'm done, I'll have a slice of cake. If I say typically once I'm done, I'll have a slice of cake, that's very different, right? That means I'm eating a lot of cake. Sometimes maybe I do that as a treat. And normally is the same as typically. It's basically the same thing. If you want to put words in there like almost always or most of the time or rarely or every so often, there are a lot of phrases that you can use there to talk about frequency. Normally maybe has a different emphasis than typically. So normally right before bed, normally may slightly emphasize more that if everything goes according to plan, this happens. And sometimes something doesn't go according to plan, and so then it doesn't happen, right? That may be the emphasis of normally, but you could use typically for that as well. Okay. Now let's talk about a conditional. A conditional is usually when we're using an if statement or perhaps sometimes when to state this thing happening and then another thing happening, and it may or may not happen, right? So if I skip breakfast, this is not really telling me how often I skip breakfast, but it is saying that when breakfast is skipped, and we often use when too, then another thing happens. It's connecting it to another thing. But if that other thing doesn't happen, then this doesn't happen. So if I skip breakfast, I have a coffee and then go to work, right? So that's what I have. So if I don't skip breakfast, maybe I do something else, right? It's just an example. When there's no traffic, so when there is traffic and when there's no traffic, generally will be two different things. So when there's no traffic, I drive to work. But when there's very bad traffic, I generally take the subway. So the state of the traffic determines what I will do as part of my routine. You need that kind of flexibility when you're talking about your routine, because if you don't have it, then it's not very realistic, because your life is not going to ever be 100% always, right? Sometimes you do things, and typically you do other things. And sometimes things happen, and if they happen, what do you do? And if they don't happen, what do you do? And when they happen, what happens after that, right? So we need these phrases to be able to actually realistically describe our routine. So if it's raining outside, I may skip my morning run. Okay. Now, you could say something like, I always go for a morning run unless it's raining outside. So that is to say, normally I go for a morning run. There may be one thing that can cancel that if it's raining. Okay, so you can say it either way. You could say, unless it's raining, I go for a run every day. Okay, or if it's raining, I don't go for my morning run. If you say if there, then you're trying to focus on the thing that does not happen, which means that normally it does happen. That might sound a little bit complicated, but actually it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. So let's read through this and sort of understand it all in context. And I'm going to look down to read it. Around 9 o'clock, I start my day with some light stretching and meditation. I want to be very clear. This is not real. This is not my routine. Okay. I want to be very clear. This is not my routine. I do not start the day with stretching and meditation. Although I do start the day with meditation, but I don't hit the gym. So, well, I do sometimes. Okay, around 9 o'clock, I start my day with some light stretching. Before hitting the gym, I have a protein shake to give me an energy boost. However, if I skip breakfast, I make sure to have a bigger lunch later on. When there's no traffic, it usually takes me only 15 minutes to get to work. And again, there you could say, when there's no traffic, I take the subway. You could say your action or something that usually is true when something else is true, right? So, where was I? Oh, yes. And on days when I work from home, I generally take a short nap in the afternoon. Generally is sort of like usually. Yeah, it's pretty much like usually. As soon as I get home, I light a candle and make a cup of coffee. Not true for me, by the way. Light a candle. Typically, before my evening walk, I spend some time catching up on the news. Definitely not me. I don't really watch the news. Sometimes, once I'm done with the housework, I like to unwind with some music or call a friend. Definitely not me. I hate talking on the phone. If it's raining outside, I cozy up with a hot cup of cocoa and read a book. Yeah, I do that sometimes without the cocoa, usually tea instead. Normally, right before bed, I spend some time reading or journaling. Reading, yes, journaling, not so much. So this is just an example of how we could put these together. I broke these down into 3 types just to give you some separation, how we can talk about time relating events together, for example, right? Around 9 o'clock, right? And as soon as I get home, we're trying to connect events together in time, right? We talked about how we can use words of frequency, usually, typically, normally, sometimes, or all of those words, which I'm sure you know, can be inserted in there to give some flavor to how often you do things, how normal your activities are. And then using conditionals to give some flexibility to your routine so that when you're talking about stuff that you do, it's clear that some things are connected to other things. And if that thing doesn't happen, then the other thing doesn't happen. Or if that thing happens, then another thing does happen, or whatever, right? There's a lot of flexibility that you can add to a description of something that you do when you use a conditional. So practice these. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course in the links in the description. Okay, so hopefully that's clear with the routine. We're living in the future. Yes, indeed, we are living in the future. We are living in the future. And it's pretty exciting. I use it pretty often to test myself on maybe something I've read, and I want to check my comprehension, or I want to remember something and I might need some suggestions on descriptions that I can use to add that thing to my memory palace, or perhaps I just want to talk through it, or I want to get some quiz questions or whatever. There are a lot of different ways to use it. Even if you're not using the live conversation version and it's just text, you can still do the same thing. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. Oh, later we're going to get to some phrases for family. If you hear giggling, that's because there's giggling. Some giggling happening downstairs. I love to hear it. You love to hear it. Giggling usually means people are happy, right? I hear happy people downstairs. Happy giggles. Happy, happy, happy. Very good. All right. I hear a giggling baby. I hear giggling mama. Giggles all around. Hee hee hee. All right. By the way, those watching live, if you have any questions about anything, if an interesting one sticks out, I will do my best to respond to it. But in the meantime, I think we can move on to this. Okay. And I want to make sure that oh, this is okay. Can I use my okay. Let me just make sure that my audio is working correctly here.
It is. It's a pet project of D.
All right, good. We're good. We're good. All right. Whether or not you've seen Monk, I believe we can learn from anything. So let's dive into this scene. It's a pretty interesting show. I used to watch it a lot more than I currently do. But let's try to pick out some language, some interesting things that we can learn from just this very short scene, and try to apply them in context, practice them in context. All right? So here we go. Listen carefully. Turn your ears on.
What is all this?
It's a research lab. Agricultural engineering. Dean Barry founded Beta Vegetech 5 years ago.
So what exactly do you do?
What exactly do you do? So he asks two questions which are kind of similar at the very beginning, right? First he says, what is all this? And then later he says, what exactly do you do? So this is an extremely useful word. What exactly, I mean specifically. And then what exactly to get more information when you want to ask a question, right? So listen carefully to how he uses this. And I want you to think about all of the different ways that you could use it to get more information. Think of what exactly as a way to dive deeper into anything, right? Someone says something and you say, what exactly does that mean? What exactly do you do? What exactly are you doing? What exactly is this? What exactly are you trying to tell me, right? So if I use the word exactly there, because I want to say, well, okay, you gave me a general thing, but that isn't enough. I need more. I need you to be more specific. I'm trying to understand this better. I want to know what exactly you do. Okay, so it's a lab. What exactly?
All this.
It's a research lab.
What is all this?
It's a research lab.
Okay, research lab. Very general. What kind of research lab?
Agricultural engineering. Dean Dean Barry founded Beta Vegetech 5 years ago.
So what exactly do you do?
Okay, what exactly do you do? See how he's diving deeper? Very, very useful. Very, very useful. Okay, so remember that and use that whenever you need to get into the specifics.
We're saving the world.
Oh, good for you. I was getting a little worried about the world.
Listen to that again.
We're saving the world 5 years ago.
So what exactly do you do?
We're saving the world.
Oh, good for you. I was getting a little worried about the world.
It's kind of a joke. Good for you. I was getting a little worried about the world. So, good for you could be used in a lot of different ways. It can be used, and I think you're probably picking up on this, somewhat sarcastically. Here, good for you. I was getting a little worried about the world. It's not clear that he's trying to be sarcastic, but that is a funny comment, right? Saving the world is such a huge thing. Who could ever believe that they are saving the world? One little lab is saving the world? Yeah, really. Good for you. Often it's used in either a condescending way or a sarcastic way when someone says that they're doing something important and you want to say, yeah, okay, wow, you think you're really great, huh? So you want to say, well, I see that you think that, but I don't know if that's really true. Okay, good for you. Good for you. I don't want to argue with you, but I will make that sarcastic comment. Now, sometimes good for you is used totally authentically to say, I'm actually happy for something that happened, about something that happened to you. So you got a new job, or you won a Lamborghini, or whatever it is. Oh, good for you. Good for you. I'm actually happy for you. So you can use it either way, sarcastically or authentically. And this one may be kind of in the middle, although I would favor sarcastic because he then goes on to say, I was getting a little worried about the world, which is kind of a funny comment. It's funny. I think it's funny. Obviously, it's supposed to be funny.
I was getting a little worried about the world. Is that a square tomato?
Yes, it is. It's
a square tomato? Looks nice. Look at that.
A tomato?
Yes, it is. It's a pet project of Dean's. The square shape means that farmers can pack 35% more tomatoes per carton. It's cheaper, more efficient.
So
farmers can pack 35. It's a pet project of Dean's. It's a pet project. It's a pet project of Dean's.
It's a pet project of Dean's. It is Dean's pet project. What is a pet project? Okay, so we have this lab, and they're doing some kind of bioengineering, agricultural engineering in this lab. Seems like they're doing some really important stuff, saving the world. Good for them. But then we have this square tomato. Is the square tomato saving the world? No. How do we know that? Because it's a pet project. So sometimes at work or in anything that you do, you have an interest, a strong interest in something, and you want to explore it. Maybe you're not sure what the outcome will be. Maybe it will fail. Maybe no one else cares about it and only you care about it. But you're really interested in this. Again, whatever it is, could be in your life, some little thing where you've decided to figure out if you can, grow a banana tree in your backyard, or at work where you've decided to spend a little extra time on some project, something that you think is really important and no one else really knows about or cares about, maybe. This can probably be described as a pet project. Pet project. So usually it's not consequential. It's not important to others. It's not the main thing. It's not the main part of the business. It's not the main goal. It's not anything. It's just this person is interested in this thing, right? That's the idea. So the head of this lab thinks it would be cool to grow some square tomatoes.
Is that a square tomato?
Yes, it is. It's a pet project of Dean's. The square shape means that farmers can pack 35% more tomatoes per carton. It's cheaper, more efficient.
So that means every slice is exactly the same size?
How does it taste?
Who cares? It's a square tomato. You're doing the Lord's work.
Okay, listen to that. It might be useful context to know that he has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, the character, and so he cares about regularity and cleanliness, and that's a big feature of the show. It's a big part of his style of investigation. He's solving crimes and things like that, and I think always. It's been a while. He's solving crimes, and often his OCD actually helps him to solve crimes and is often a source of humor in the show.
How does it taste?
Who cares? It's a square tomato. You're doing the Lord's work.
The Lord's work? What do you mean, the Lord's work? Acting like God? No. So, if somebody is doing something for the benefit of others, selflessly, right? As though God would approve. How wonderful, how selfless. And you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart to feed the poor and help people in need. This is often described as the Lord's work, right? Maybe it's not financially rewarding. Maybe there's not a lot of prestige, but you do it because it's the right thing to do, and it comes from the kindness of your heart. It's often described as the Lord's work. Ignore that it is actually called the Lord's work. It really just means you're doing it from a place of authenticity to help others with a pure heart, right? Well, in this case, who benefits is a man with OCD, as someone who has a psychological issue where things have to be regular and square, right? And to have a square tomato where every slice is the same is a dream come true for a person with OCD. In this case, this guy, Monk, right? So he's calling it the Lord's work. Again, a funny comment because it's not to almost everyone else. It would be, why would you need to make a square tomato? There are so many other things you could focus on. But to him, this is probably very exciting, right? So that's why he calls it the Lord's work. That's kind of a complicated explanation, but the humor of that moment is a little bit complicated, I think.
Literally.
Oh, and then she says literally because it is the Lord's work, let's say, to create the world and vegetables and things. So they're actually creating life and forms of life, creating square tomatoes. So they are actually acting in a way as a god. And so she says literally. Yeah, literally. Oh, yeah, actually, because they're creating a type of life.
Mr. Berry, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about the bite. We're testing new corn seed. They're genetically engineered to sprout in 20 minutes.
More or less.
What you're seeing is...
Listen to that.
They're genetically engineered to sprout in 20 minutes.
More or less.
We're testing new corn seed. They're genetically engineered to sprout in 20 minutes.
More or less.
What you're seeing is...
They're genetically engineered to sprout in under 20 minutes, more or less. So he adds more or less, which the meaning is obvious, right? More than 20 minutes or less than 20 minutes. So why mention that? Why does he say that? That's really the reason I wanted to bring this up. In this clip in particular, he says more or less to show some perhaps frustration with the fact that it may not be going that well, or he's still trying to figure it out, or he's not very confident in it yet, or, this is an ongoing thing. And often we use more or less as a comment when someone else says something, when we say more or less, to say, well, what you said is generally right, but I'm not as confident in it as you sound, so I want to say yes, but not 100% yes, right? And you could use it for a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be an amount. It doesn't have to be an amount of time, for example, like 20 minutes. It could be it could be a price. It could be the level of excitement that you have for something. It could be your expertise around something, right? How well you understand, maybe. Someone explains something and asks if you got it, and you say, more or less. To say, I think I kind of do, but I don't want to be too confident in saying, yes, I totally understand, right? And it is often used for time and amounts. It's very common for things like time. When are you going to be there? You said you would be here in an hour. Is that still correct? More or less might mean not really, right? About, but maybe not quite.
Going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it.
Congratulations on the square tomato.
Seeing is going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it.
Less.
What you're seeing is going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it.
More or less.
What you're seeing is going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it.
What you're seeing is going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it. Is going to revolutionize the agriculture industry as you know it. Often, as we know it is a common way to say this. Actually, I would say as we know it is more common. As you know it, I guess, works here, but I think it's actually weird that she says as you know it. Instead, most people are going to say as we know it. Anything that is currently normal, we call a status quo. A status quo is, well, it is what is currently normal. It is what is typical, is what is expected, right? So that is what is going on as you know it, right? Change the movie industry as we know it. Change maybe life as we know it. To maybe, I don't know, change science overall as we know it, or change this field as we know it. To change something as we know it is to have what's called a paradigm shift, generally, into a totally new kind of thing, right? So scientific discovery is made, and it changes our understanding of the universe as we know it. So as we knew it before is, or currently know it, is our general understanding. This is how things are. And then this thing comes out, this discovery happens, and now everything is different. So it changed our understanding of the universe as we know it. It's often for big things, but I suppose it could be used for simple things as well. You could use it to talk about your understanding of, let's say, your relationships, right? So maybe that conversation I had changed how I think about all of my other relationships as I know it, right? It could be used in that way. Maybe not as common, but generally we're going to be talking about slightly bigger things. Okay, let's keep going.
Congratulations on the square tomato.
You want one? You could take one home.
Find it myself, Mr. Monk. I don't even know where to begin.
Ellie, look at this thing. We've got nature on the run. Finally. Ellie, look at this thing. We've got nature.
He's got a square tomato. They gave him one. He has it at home.
I don't even know where to begin.
Ellie, look at this thing. We've got nature on the run.
We've got nature on the run. Nature on the run? Nature on the run? We've got them on the run is often something you hear in, I don't know, a crime story where they're chasing after the criminal. They're nearly, you know, the criminal is within their grasp, very close. We've got them on the run, right? Someone is being followed or investigated or pursued in some way. And the people who are following them or pursuing them or chasing them have them on the run. They have an advantage over them. They are maybe getting closer and closer to catching them. What the heck is this? Hold on. What is this? Give me a second. Hold on, hold on, hold on. What the heck? Sorry guys, give me a second. I'm having some issues. I gotta turn my camera off and on again. Give me a sec. What is going on? What is going on? I updated my computer. Turn off reactions. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys. Sorry guys, I don't know what's going on here with my screen is totally frozen and I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not sure what is happening, but let me see if I can fix it. So give me a second. Luckily, I mean the frozen screen is not as bad as it could have been. Let's see if I can fix this. I had just updated to the latest Mac OS version, and it's got this dumb thing where it automatically adds reactions, and I didn't know it was on, and apparently it is on. So I don't know what I can do about that. Let's try this. Okay, and then let's go back. All right, why is it frozen like that? I don't want that to be frozen like that. Let's see. For those listening, I apologize. What happened is my camera seems totally frozen, but the audio is still working fine. But the video is not working fine. Video is not working fine at all. Okay. All right. Wow. Wow. Thanks, Apple. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. How do I turn that off forever? How do I turn that off for the rest of time? I hate that so much. I hate it. All right. Basically just ruined my entire. I basically spent my whole day planning this. And then Apple comes along and ruins it. Thanks. Thank you so much, Apple. Okay. All right. Let me try this. I'm going to turn this off. And then I'm going to turn it on again. I understand if people are checking out now, but I gotta get this resolved. Otherwise, I think I'll have to restart my computer. Maybe restart the stream. All right. Maybe I can try another camera. guess that works. All right, guys. Well, I don't know what's going on. I think we'll have to call it a day. Sorry, I apologize. Totally frozen. Totally frozen. I don't know what I can do. So, sorry, everybody. Sorry, everyone. Have a good weekend. Take care. Technical difficulties we must end. See ya.